Thank you. Welcome here. Welcome for joining us this morning. We are going to, of course, officially release right now the 2019 proposed budget for Erie County. This is going over to the legislature as we speak. Under the rules associated with Erie County's charter, we are required to provide our budget by October 15th. We are providing it 3 days earlier, this Friday, of course, October 12th. We have some good news to announce, not just with the budget, but we have one new resident in Erie County. As many of you know, John Rivera, our Special Assistant in the Department of Public Works, formerly the liaison to the legislature. John and, of course, his wife, Stephanie. They gave birth to a brand new baby girl last night, Anna Sophia, 8 pounds, 3 ounces, I believe. So our population continues to increase, and I want to congratulate the Riveras on the birth of a very healthy little baby girl. And when it comes to Erie County government, we also have some very good positive news to announce again as we release the 2019 Erie County budget, which is more than dollars and cents on a spreadsheet, but shows the priorities of this administration and things that we care about and want to ensure are taken care of in our community. The budget is actually 3 books, and I'm joined here by, of course, our budget director, Robert Keating. We also have our deputy budget director, Scott Milewski, here. Or was here. Oh, he's over there. Okay, sorry. You guys can get closer. But this is a work that takes months. This is not something that is done in 2 or 3 days, but actually takes weeks and months. We have a timeline in county government with regards to the preparation of the budget, which starts much earlier in the year. It actually starts in spring. The departments are required to submit their proposed budgets to the budget office by no later than August 15th, and then we work with other departments to call the budget and make certain that it is something that we can afford and meets the priorities of this administration. So I want to thank Budget Director Keating and Deputy Budget Director Milewski for the great work over the last few months, as well as the other members of their staff, because this is a big, big deal. This is not something that happens easily. This budget is combined between all of the lines associated with it, a $1.69 billion budget. If Erie County was a private entity, it would be probably the largest private entities in regards to budgets on an annual basis compared to anything that we have in our region. And you see on the pie chart here a breakdown of the operating funds for Erie County's budget. The vast majority of it is related to health and human services. It's actually about 46%, and that's $784 million plus that goes to health and human services. We have economic community development of $391 million. That includes funds for our parks, our roads, all those types of services. Public safety, $190 million, which includes our sheriff's office as well as the district attorney's office. And then we break it down: general services countywide, the debt funds we have, the education and libraries, which is a combination between SUNY Erie and our Buffalo and Erie County Public Library, which we'll go into in a little greater detail in a little bit. Administration and management, that includes the county executive's office, the county controller, the legislature, and some other lines. So that's the operating funds, $1.692 million, or billion dollars, $1.692 billion. And the revenue sources, and people often ask, how do you pay for a $1.7 billion total budget? And the vast majority of funds that we use for our budget is in relation to the sales tax that's collected. $445 million of which will go for county purposes in 2019, and $364 million of which will be shared with local governments like the 3 cities, the towns, the villages, and the school districts. They all get a piece of our sales tax. And then you see a lot of the other funds, including the tax levy, the property tax levy, which only makes up 16% of the county's revenues. And then the library tax levy, which is a little bit smaller, that's 1.47% of our revenues, about $25 million, which I will note has grown by about $5 million in the levy since I took office, showing my commitment towards funding our libraries. But these are the pie charts associated with the revenue. The big thing with the revenue that we're talking about this year for 2019 is what will be the biggest tax rate decrease in more than a decade, since actually before the red green fiscal crisis in Erie County government, a 2% tax rate decrease. It actually is a reduction in the tax rate of 9 cents to $4.86 per thousand. So if you own a $100,000 home assessed at $100,000, your county tax bill for 2019 will be $486, as compared to what it was last year, which was $495. So you would be seeing a small tax cut. And anytime we can reduce taxes is a good thing. This is one of the lowest tax rates in all of New York State for any counties. And since I took office, it actually is a reduction of a substantial amount. When I took office, the tax rate was $5.03. It remained that way for a couple of years. And over the last few years, because of great assessment growth and other revenues, we've been able to reduce the tax rate further. And this is, as I noted, the largest tax rate reduction that the county has seen since before the red-green fiscal crisis. And it is lower than, our total levy will be lower than the New York State property tax cap limit. So we will not be going over the tax cap, and we will be reducing the tax rate, but we are generating more money in our property tax through the increased amount of buildings and assessment growth that we've seen in our community. So you're seeing all these new buildings, a lot of stuff that's going up, that adds to our tax levy rolls. We are going to be receiving additional funds, but because we've had such good growth, we are able to actually reduce the tax rate by 9 cents, the 2% tax rate cut, and utilize those funds for proper purposes still through the new revenue that has been generated through Erie County and the assessment growth that we've seen. Now, 90% of the county budget is mandated. That $1.7 billion budget, 90% of it is mandated by New York State and the federal government. And here's a list of many of the programs that have been in place for a long, long time that we have talked about, starting out with Medicaid family assistance, going all the way down to correctional health services, and everything in between. So 90% of it is mandated, but we have a new mandate that has resulted in 2018 and 2019, and that's for the raise the age of criminal responsibility, criminal prosecution. 16 and 17-year-olds previously in New York State were basically tried as adults, put into our holding center, and went through the normal court system. In 2017, New York State changed the rules, stating that we would now take 16 and 17-year-olds and put them into the children's system, the family court system. This is a good thing. 16-year-olds should not necessarily be treated like 45-year-olds, and nor should they necessarily be housed with adults. However, there is a cost to this. So in 2018, we had to create 23 jobs to handle the influx of what we expected to be the change from the 16-year-olds coming to our youth detention facility on East Ferry. And in 2019, we have to add another 23 jobs for the 17-year-olds, which will be entering our system later in 2019. Now, New York State has pledged to offset the cost associated with this. They told every county they're going to do that. But as of now, they have not entered into an agreement with any county to do it, and we have already spent money in the past year, and we will be spending a lot more in the upcoming year, and we have not seen a penny of reimbursement. So on behalf of the counties in New York State, we are very worried that we will not see a reimbursement. We are hopeful we'll see a reimbursement. New York State has pledged it, but they haven't signed the agreement stating they'll do it. Regardless, we have to create 23 new jobs this year's budget, and we're going to be creating 23 new jobs in next year's budget to handle the influx of 16 and 17-year-olds into our youth detention facility, as well as into our youth probation, because they now have to be taken out of the adult probation system and basically put in a youth one, which has different rules and different responsibilities. So we are going to be creating 23 jobs in the 2019 budget associated with this, which is a new mandate from New York State government. But we also fund the people's mandates. The people's mandates are those programs that the public expects. They actually think their government pays for. As I said, we have a $1.7 billion budget, but 90% of that goes to state and federal mandates. But we have these other things that the people want to support. And what we're doing is we're increasing cultural funding for the 7th year in a row. We have some significant projects that we're supporting. We're putting $200,000 in to restore the Roycroft Copper Shop because there's significant damage at the Roycroft's Copper Shop to the point where if it doesn't get fixed, they're going to have to close the facility, and it's a historic site. So we're going to be providing $200,000 to Roycroft to repair the copper shop. We're providing $250,000, which is half of the requested amount, for the Trailblazing Women of Western New York Monument Project. They announced they want to do 3 monuments in our area to honor women. If you go around and you see all the monuments we have, you are going to have a tough time finding a woman in the monuments. This is a project that was put together by Erie County Commission on the Status of Women. They've announced the first 2 monuments will honor Louise Bethune, who is the architect of the Lafayette Hotel and the first woman member of the American Institute of Architects. And the second one is Mary Talbert, a very famous orator, African American in the 1800s, who was a civil rights activist and was right from here in Buffalo. So we are going to be funding half of the cost associated with the Trailblazing Women of Western New York Monument, and we're hopeful that the rest will be received from public and private donations. We are also going to be putting $100,000 in to support the creation of the African American Veterans Monument over at the Service Persons Park. There has been announced about this project in the past, and we are going to be providing $100,000 to help them get over the finish line to complete this project, and hopefully by this time next year the project will be done. So this is just one example of the people's mandates. Another big one, of course, is the library. And in this budget, we once again continue my commitment to the library. We actually will be increasing their levy growth by 2%, which equals $488,000 of new operating assistance to the library, in addition to the funds that we provide them for capital associated with projects that they have at the library. Since I took office, we've actually increased the operating levy to over $5 million above what it was. It's now a little less than $25 million in total operating, and it was right around $20 million when we came in. So this is just another example of my continued commitment to fund one of our greatest assets in our region, the libraries. Another one of our great assets is, of course, SUNY Erie, our community college. We are offering substantial amounts with regards to a $4.84 million investment in the capital associated with the facility, which will allow them to leverage that money to New York State and get an almost comparable amount. So they're going to get approximately $5 million to do work on the 3 campuses. And we are increasing our operating commitment. We last year provided them $16,754,000. This year we're going to be providing them $17,114,000. So they will be getting an increase in their annual operating subsidy. And once we do this, it's then locked in stone. We cannot lower it in the future. So this is what's considered the maintenance of effort under New York State law. So no matter what happens in the future, because of our increase, SUNY Erie will be guaranteed a $17 million, $114,317 operating subsidy from Erie County. And we're reducing costs to the taxpayers by basically eating $3.6 million, or about 50% of the chargebacks, which is the fees that we get charged when an Erie County resident goes to a community college in another county in New York State. In years past, we passed that back to the taxpayers and made them pay for it. We're eating it totally as a community right now, so it doesn't go to the particular towns where an individual lives. So we've increased our commitment in funding to SUNY Erie. We are also investing, of course, in our infrastructure. There is a total of $72 million in capital infrastructure investments for 2019, which includes, of course, our roads and bridges, our buildings, our assistance we give for New Era Stadium, the assistance we provide to the Botanical Gardens, the assistance we provide to the Convention Center. And it includes $30.8 million for road and bridge projects all across our county, and $2 million to purchase new heavy equipment, new trucks, which will be used for snow plowing in the winter, and construction projects during the summer. Since 2012, we've invested total, this includes county, federal, and state resources, and there's been hardly any federal resources during that period, $263 million on road and bridge work. More than $250 million has been spent on road and bridge work by my administration since we took office in 2012. That's a lot of money, folks, and it just goes to show my continued commitment to addressing infrastructure issues in our community. We are also investing in our technology. We are doing and finishing a major project to upgrade the hardware at our Central Police Services and Public Safety Campus E911 call center. Even though the call center is not that old, it was built during the Giambra administration, it's been over 15 years approximately, and the technology is now old. We need to increase and invest in that infrastructure technology, so we're putting $2 million in the hardware upgrades. We're also putting $250,000 into cybersecurity upgrades for our internal Erie County networks and $350,000 in upgrades for the Central Police Services system. So we don't see here in Erie County what unfortunately has happened with other governments across the United States, which is hackers come in and take over their networks. You don't want to see that happen in a county government. You certainly don't want to see that happen with the police systems. That has happened elsewhere in the United States. We've been investing in our cybersecurity, but we haven't done a big investment as we're going to be doing in 2019 with these multiple investments. So we're investing in our infrastructure technology to protect our county. We are also investing in our public health. Something my administration has been very serious about since we've taken over is ensuring that we have as strong a community as possible. Of course, we have our Health and Human Services Plan initiatives for a stronger community, which is nearing completion, and we'll be announcing a revitalized version of that in 2019. But one thing that is an exceptional concern to our Department of Health and myself personally is New York State Department of Health just issued a report of all of New York State looking at cancer rates and identified 4 areas that have significant issues, and there are 4 higher elevated rates across New York State. One's in Warren County, one's in Staten Island, one is on Long Island, and those are all green on the map there, and then there's one in the east side of Buffalo and Cheektowaga, in which they have high clusters, elevated rates of colorectal, esophageal, kidney, lung, oral, and prostate cancer. We don't know exactly why. New York State is doing additional investment in trying to figure out what happened. They're drilling down even further than what the initial report did. But we have to address this issue. So we are putting $250,000 into the Department of Health to support outreach efforts to the affected areas of East Buffalo and West Cheektowaga, utilizing existing cancer services program staff. We do not have to increase staff, but what we're going to be doing is doing additional outreach, getting more information to the public, and improving our screening. So individuals who live in the east side of Buffalo, west side of Cheektowaga, we're going to be targeting them to prevent them from getting these 6 highly elevated cancer cluster rates that unfortunately exist in this area. These are cancers, unfortunately, some of these, when you get them, it's pretty much a death sentence. It's very difficult to survive some of these cancers. So we want to ensure that we get the information out to the public about what is occurring, and then we get them screened. So if they haven't gone and seen a doctor, they haven't been screened for cancer, we get them screened using our existing cancer screening program. We're also investing in our seniors, which we always have done, but we're even putting a little bit more in by putting $150,000 to support the Center for Elder Law and Justice to fund the new senior legal advice line for Erie County residents. They actually do that for other counties, but now they're going to be doing it on behalf of Erie County residents to ensure that our Erie County residents who are of senior age, if they have questions, they can actually talk to an attorney from the Center for Elder Law and Justice and provide them the information that they deserve, and if they need to, go to a greater consultation afterwards. The phone number, which already exists, is 1-844-481-0973. And that number, as I said, already exists for the Center for Elder Law and Justice, but we'll be providing them additional funding so they can handle a greater influx of calls that we expect from Erie County. We, of course, want to continue to protect the health and welfare of citizens, as we talked about. So we're continuing the $500,000 for anti-poverty efforts to be recommended by our county poverty committee. We've put $500,000 in the past, and they focused on childhood poverty prevention measures. We're putting another $500,000, which will be recommended for use by them. We're continuing the $750,000 of lead paint abatement funding and other items that were added recently to ensure that we address the issues with lead poisoning in our community. We don't have the problem of lead pipes like other areas do, but we have a big problem with lead paint. So we're going to continue to focus by putting $750,000 in there. We are going to add to our county fleet through our new enterprise lease a mobile services van for our social services, our senior services, our health department, our veterans office, to go around and provide services to people in their communities. Erie County is a very large county, geographic-wise. We are approximately the same size geographic as the state of Rhode Island. And we have a population that's greater than 5 states. And it's not easy if someone lives in Springville, or lives in Sardinia, or lives on the reservation in Brant, to get the services that they need when they got to drive up to Buffalo 45 minutes away. Same thing in the North Towns. If you live in Akron, it's not a short drive to go downtown. And so we're going to be bringing these services out to the people through a new mobile services van that'll look very similar to what you see on the screen there. That is not actually the county van. That's one that's utilized by another government in the United States. But having looked at the various ones that are used, we think that'll be appropriate for this region. And so then it'll be used every day. One day it will be senior services. Next day will be Health and Human Services. So you'll find out when the senior services reps are going to be in Grand Island or whether they're going to be down in Colden. And you can actually talk to one of our county staff there and get the information that you need. We are increasing Operation Primetime funding by 20%. Operation Primetime is the program that truthfully invests in our greatest asset, which is our generation coming up next, our children. So we're increasing funding to $600,000. This provides a safe and educational environment for students during the summer when they're out of school. We're providing $25,000 to the Clean Air Coalition to assist with its continued protection of our local air quality. We're providing $25,000 to the Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo to assist in the implementation of the Greater Buffalo Racial Equity Roundtable Report. Not on the slide, but we're providing $100,000 in new funding to the City Mission, which has done a tremendous job working with our Department of Social Services as well as our Department of Health in addressing issues associated with the homeless. So we'll be providing them additional funding, actually for the first time funding from Erie County. They've not received funding in recent years. We are investing in our parks, in our Parks Master Plan. We are actually releasing at this time our Parks Master Plan, which has been in place or working on for some time. We're putting $100,000 into the 2019 budget to ensure that the Parks Master Plan recommendations, many of them start to take effect in 2019. We will be reestablishing the Erie County mandated position of Deputy Commissioner of Recreation to help coordinate the various ranger programs, volunteer groups, and implement the many findings of the plan. Tomorrow is Erie County's Fall Fest at Como Park from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And we're expecting lots of people there. And it's been tough to actually put this thing together because we don't have a recreation director like we used to. So we have all these new organizations that we've been working with, whether it's the Chestnut Ridge Conservancy or the Disc Golf Association or the Mobile Bike Association, the Cross Country Skiing Association, and in past they would have worked with the Deputy Commissioner of Recreation. Well, we're going to restore that position so not only can they ensure that our local organizations that utilize our parks have an individual that they can deal with on a daily basis to address their needs, but they will be working to increase the recreational programs that we have in our parks, including our highly popular Ranger program. And in 2019, we will be providing $3.275 million in capital investments into our parks to continue to make the parks the best they can be. So the 2019 budget in a nutshell. It's a common sense plan to address the needs of citizens and promotes a stronger community for all. It reduces the tax rate to $4.86 per thousand from $4.95, which is the largest tax rate cut in truthfully more than a decade. It preserves and strengthens the people's mandates. It enhances the community's well-being and, of course, our community's health. And it funds initiatives that promote our high quality of life in this region. I'm very proud of this budget. I thank our budget director and his staff for the great work that they've done. This is just another example of how Erie County leads the way to creating a better community for all, and just goes to show that we can do it in a manner that actually reduces the tax rate.